Hey there. Today we're going to be testing the base accuracy of 6 different factory loadings of .223 and .556 ammunition here on the Tennessee Rifleman. The rifle we're going to be testing today is this Steyr AUG A3M1. This rifle is chambered in .556. It has a 1-in-9 twist chrome-lined barrel, and the optic that we're going to be using today is this Nightforce Attacker 1 to 8 time magnification low power variable optic. And we're going to be shooting it on the highest magnification to ensure the greatest level of accuracy. So really the idea behind doing the test today is there's a lot of information out there on different ammunition loadings for AR-15 style platforms, but the Steyr AUG has a very different system of operation, right? It's got a short stroke gas piston located here in the front of the barrel. And the other aspect of it is I've seen a lot of posts on the internet that seem to suggest that the Steyr AUG is not an accurate rifle by any means. I've seen people posting groups of 6 and 7 inches and then people following it up by saying, yeah, that's about the accuracy you're going to get out of it. Now, in my experience, that's absolutely not true. So today, what I plan on doing is testing 6 different loadings of ammunition, 4 of them Federal, 2 of them Hornady, and let's see what types of grains that this rifle prefers. Hey, so before we get shooting, what I wanted to go over is the methodology that we're going to be using for this test. Now, this target that you see in front of you, we're going to be aiming for the center point. This target is located exactly 100 yards from our shooting position, and that's validated with a laser rangefinder. Now, the whole idea here is that we're going to fire a 5-round group into this target, and I don't care where within this target or the surrounding poster board it lands. What I really care about is the group size. So to measure the group, we're going to measure from the center of the 2 furthest bullets away with digital calipers to ensure that we have the greatest level of accuracy. Now, with firing 5 rounds, I'm not expecting to get a definitive test of accuracy or a definitive level of overall accuracy for each individual round. What I'm hoping to do here is establish a baseline for what grains the Steyr AUG prefers and generally the type of ammunition and bullets that it prefers. And from there, we can then go on to greater testing based on how these rounds perform. All right, let's go ahead and get to the first round that we're going to test today. The first loading of ammunition that we're going to try today is Federal American Eagle XM193, which are 55 grain full metal jacket bullets. Now, there are 3 things that I think of when I think of XM193. 1 is they're reliable, 2 is they're affordable, and 3 is that they're not that impressive as far as it comes to accuracy. Now, as far as how they're packed, these come in an ammunition can, and it's all general loose rounds. You can get them for cheaper in various other containers. Now, these rounds are pretty standard. They're pretty much universally available at every gun store I've been to in the United States. So these are going to be used as the baseline off of which we judge all other ammunition that we test. So let's go ahead, load up 5 rounds, shoot, and see how it performs. Now we've gone ahead and shot our 5-round group of American Eagle XM193. 4 of the rounds hit the target itself. 1 of them veered off over onto the tape onto the left side. Between the 2 furthest rounds from each other, we've got a distance of 5.18 inches, which is certainly not impressive by any means as far as accuracy. Now, assuming that we just discounted this one as a flyer, which I'm inclined not to do, the other next furthest distance would be from these 2 rounds, which gives us a distance of 3.36 inches according to the digital calipers. Again, not impressive accuracy by any means. So the second ammunition we're going to try is Hornady Frontier 5.56 55 grain hollow point match. Now, these rounds come in packs of 20. As you can see, there's a little separator inside the container itself to basically make sure that they're stored properly. Now, I've got a decent amount of experience with this particular round here. I've shot over 1,000 rounds of it. I found it to be more accurate than XM193, and I've also found it to be extremely reliable, and it comes in at about a similar price. So we're gonna go ahead and shoot 5 rounds and see how it compares. Well, I don't know if it was a placebo effect in the past or what, but based on this group, 55 grain Hornady Frontier performed worse than XM193. Now, that could just be my ability to shoot, but if you look at the furthest bullets, one here and one here, that's over 6 inches. Now, assuming you discount this one as a flyer and go with the other two, you're looking at 4.46 inches according to the digital caliper. Now, either way, that's not impressive, and the XM193 certainly beats this round hands down. All right, the third rounds that we're going to try today are these Hornady Frontier 5.56 62 grain boat tail hollow point match bullets. So the 55 grains from Hornady were disappointing to say the least. However, maybe these might do better. I've seen in certain charts claims that a 1-in-9 twist barrel actually performs best with 62 grain bullets. So we'll put that to the test right now. All right, for the Hornady 62 grain, we're definitely seeing an improvement as far as grouping. Now, the furthest spread were these two bullets here, which are actually, oddly enough, equidistant from these 2 rounds here. Now, both of them came in at 2.5 inches. Now, assuming that I discount this one as a flyer, measuring from these two gives exactly 1.88 inches from the digital caliper. Certainly, based on the previous 2 rounds that we saw, the Steyr AUG seems to be more accurate with this ammunition. But we've got 3 more to test before we make any final decisions. Up next is Federal Premium's 69 grain Sierra MatchKing ammunition. Now, this is in 223. And as you can see here, certainly the box is a lot prettier than what we've seen before. The ammunition holders are better. The ammunition in general looks a lot more shiny, but all of this so far is aesthetics. Now, we're gonna go ahead and load this up and see how it performs as far as accuracy. Traditionally, I've had pretty good luck with 69 grain Sierra MatchKings, but we'll see how I do today with it. Now, one thing I've always found interesting about the 69 grain bullets when you're 0 to 55 in an AUG is, for whatever reason, they always seem to hit up and to the left. I'm not quite sure why that is. With that being said, with this grouping here, honestly, not bad at all. So between the 2 greatest in distance, we've got 2.2 inches, assuming that either this one or this one was a flyer. Basically, if you measure it here, you've got 1.36 inches according to the calipers. That's a far cry better than either the XM193 as well as the 55 grain Hornady. So certainly good in performance out of the Federal 69 grain Sierra MatchKings, but we've got 2 more rounds to go. All right, fifth on the list are these Federal Premium loadings of Berger's 73 grain open tip match ammunition. Now, these come in a similar container to the 69 grain. Additionally, what I didn't point out is that all Federal Premiums have the bottom part on the primer actually painted blue, so they're easy to identify if you're shooting at a range with a lot of other people, which are your cases if you need to pick them up for reloading. Now, as we move past 69 grain bullets, I've heard differing opinions as far as the Steyr AUG. I've heard some people say that the 1-9 twist barrel on it cannot stabilize above 69 grains. I've heard some people say that it stabilizes just fine. I've personally never shot above 69 grains on this rifle, so we're entering uncharted territory, but I'm definitely excited to see how these rounds perform. Also, with the claim that they don't stabilize properly, we'll be looking for any signs of that on the target itself, such as keyholing through the target. But we'll go ahead and put these to the test and see how they do. All right, the results of the 73 grain Berger bullets are disappointing to say the least. So you've got about 5.3 for the extreme spread, that being about from there to there. And for the other extreme, there to there, you've got about 5 inches overall. So these perform about the same as XM193. Now, I don't see any signs of them not being properly stabilized, but certainly the accuracy could suggest that 73 grains is just too much for a 1-9 twist barrel. But we've got one final round to test, and we'll go to the conclusions following that. So the final ammunition we're testing today is Federal Premium's loading of 77 grain Sierra MatchKing rounds in 223. Now, these rounds are traditionally known for their accuracy. However, with a 1-9 twist barrel and with the fairly disappointing performance of the 73 grain Bergers previously, I'm a little bit skeptical about how these are going to perform. That being said, you're not here to listen to my speculations. You're here to see how these actually perform. So we're going to load up 5 rounds, we're going to shoot them, and we're going to see how they do. All right, I guess I was wrong about the 77 grains. So out of all the rounds that we've tested so far, I'll go back and crunch the numbers and verify, but these certainly look the most impressive. For the extreme spread from here to here, you've got about 1.76, 1.77 inches for the extreme spread. From here to here, assuming you count this one as a flyer, which I'm not going to do, you've got about 1.3 inches. Based on these, compared to the Bergers, I just really don't know how to explain it. But hey, these are the results. All right, so after seeing the results of the 77 grain Sierra MatchKing, I wanted to give the Bergers another chance and just see how they perform. So I shot another 5-round group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And based on measurements, at the furthest link, we had about 2.38 inches. And at the shortest, we had about 1.8. Certainly better than XM193 or the 55 grain Hornadies. And I'd say close to the performance of the 69 grains, but certainly not as good as the 77 grains we just fired. All right, so that concludes today's test. And believe me, I am definitely ready to get out of the sun, get back home, and calculate the final results. But I wanted to discuss a couple of things first. Hey, so first off, right, definitely for me today, there was a lot of knowledge I thought I had about ammunition that seems to be proven wrong based on these tests. For example, the 55 grain Hornady, for some reason I could have sworn it was more accurate than the XM193. Based on the results I had today, that was not the case. And just so you guys are aware, I fired the first batch of that, right, 5 rounds, looked at it, it was not as accurate as XM193, so I went ahead and fired 2 other batches, so a total of 15 rounds, or 3 separate groups, right, off camera, and all of them came up with pretty much the same results. So, yeah, I'm reasonably certain that those are fairly accurate. So, 2, right, some criticism that I can imagine that will come up is that, yes, I realize I was not shooting off a bench. I did not have this in a weighted sled. It wasn't tightened down. And there was, yes, me, the human shooter, having an effect on how these rounds landed. Now, with that being said, with each of these shots that I did, right, I tried to make them as consistently as possible. Now, there were some deviations. For example, the 73 grain Bergers seemed to be, well, you notice a huge difference in one shot versus the other. With that being said, when I fired the first group, looking back on it, I didn't feel really stable, so I decided to give it another chance, and lo and behold, it shot a lot more accurately. The other thing I'd mention as well is, even though, yes, I as a human am in the equation of shooting this rifle, and yes, I do consider myself to be an average shot at best, there was a definitive difference in the groupings of the 6 different types of ammunition that we tried today. So what that at least gives us is a area to focus on. So based on the results today, it appears that the AUG A3M1 prefers bullets in the grains between 69 and 77. Now let's get into the environmental factors, right? So I'm out here in this beautiful New Mexico desert. You know, ironic being called the Tennessee Rifleman and you're in New Mexico, right? But anyway, I'm out here in this beautiful desert. It's a very chilly 94 degrees, and I've been out here for about 3.5 hours. As you may be able to tell on some of this video footage, there's definitely some decent gusts of wind that come and go. It doesn't show very well on the camera, but if I were to do a pan around this entire area, or you're actually standing here with me, you'd see that essentially I'm in a giant valley, and it basically functions as a wind tunnel. So is it the ideal place to test rounds? No, because you do have wind, but even with that in effect, we still got different results with different grains of ammunition. Yeah, so with that being said, I am pretty hot, definitely thirsty, and I'm ready to get out of the sun. So we're gonna head back home. I'm going to compile the final data, and we're going to see how all of these rounds performed, as well as what the cost per round was. I think some of the results may be a bit surprising. All right, so we're back home, and we've gone ahead and put in all of the data from this testing. Now, just going across it, you've got the manufacturer, the round type, the price per round, where I purchased the round from, and also the 5-round group result that gives us our final data as far as the accuracy per round. Now, a couple of disclaimers before we get into this. First, the price here per round was current as of the time that I bought these rounds. So just be mindful that you may see them for a slightly different price. It is what it is. Secondly, the 5-round group results reflect my ability to shoot as much as they reflect the accuracy provided by the AUG and the rounds fired. I consider myself an average shooter at best, and a better shooter could easily shoot a tighter group. Don't take these numbers as definitive as to the inherent accuracy of the AUG. Now, there are 5 separate points that I want to go over today. The first is that round selection can make a huge difference. Now, let's look at these 2 rounds, the Federal American Eagle 55 grain full metal jacket and the Hornady Frontier 62 grain boat tail hollow point. For a price difference of 5 cents per round, we were able to decrease our 5-round group result by over 100%, which is absolutely pretty substantial. So you saw a little bit of diminishing returns as we moved up in the size of the bullet into heavier grains, but the jump from 55 to 62 was absolutely astonishing. 2, don't take the twist rate of your barrel as gospel.
test it out. So I have seen a lot of posts on the internet, and I've heard this from a lot of fellow shooters who swear up and down that a 1-in-9 twist barrel can absolutely not stabilize a 77 grain bullet at 100 yards. You know, they're saying the accuracy will be awful, it'll keyhole, and it's just going to be a disaster, and it's absolutely not going to work. Well, based on the results today, out to 100 yards, the heaviest grain bullet that we tested, the 77 Sierra MatchKing, outperformed every other round on the list. Now, with that being said, we did only test to 100 yards, so I can't at this time definitively conclude that the AUG can stabilize this past that distance. That will be a test for another day. 3, you sometimes get what you pay for. Now, in my opinion, the 2 worst performing rounds of this group, well, first, the Hornady Frontier 55 grain, yes, it performed worse than XM193, self-explanatory, but it's the cheapest round. But then you look at the 73 Berger, loaded by Federal Premium. Now, this was the second most expensive round that we tested, and if you look at the group results, they're really not that impressive overall. So the 69 grain Sierra MatchKing outperformed it, and if you go down to even the 62 grain boat tail hollow point, for a round that is over 50% cheaper, you really only had an increase in the group size of 0.12 inches, which if you look at the massive difference between price, I think that's negligible, and there's the possibility I could have shot this round again and outperformed the Berger. I don't know. Additionally, the price per round difference between the 73 and the 77 grains here is only 2 cents. And for 2 cents, you get over a 25% increase in performance. Definitely something to think about. So, granted, this data is currently fairly limited, and I can't give any definitive recommendations overall versus, all the other ammos available on the market. But with that being said, if I had to give recommendations, if you are looking for a round for plinking and you want something that's fairly affordable but pretty accurate through the AUG, I'd absolutely go with the Hornady Frontier 62 grain. Now, if you're looking to get the absolute most accuracy possible out of your AUG, either the 69 grain or the 77 grain Sierra MatchKing would be what I would recommend. Now, the jury's still out on which of these ultimately performs better in the long run, because I know that the 69 grain Sierra MatchKing will stabilize out to 600 yards. I've shot it that far before, and it had good effects. I can't give the same recommendation for the 77 grain Sierra MatchKing. Finally, right, can we determine from this how accurate the AUG is and what accuracy you can expect from it? And with the limited data, I can't give a definitive answer on, in a field environment, shooting in a practical manner, this is the maximum possible accuracy you can expect out of your AUG. However, what I can say is that if you pick the right ammunition, an average shooter can expect to shoot less than 3 minutes of angle. Now, that doesn't sound too impressive, but the M4 in military service is guaranteed to shoot less than 4 MOA, or otherwise it's just not accepted into service. So certainly for the AUG, based on the current data, it can perform in the manner expected of a service rifle, but it doesn't necessarily exceed that expectation. And that's based on the current data that we've collected. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video, hope you learned something from it, and look forward to seeing you guys next time.